You might not know, but in Create Mod, it's actually possible to make vehicles that move themselves, allowing you to go anywhere, and all without any other mods such as Valkyrian Skies or Clockwork. If you've been watching my videos for a long time, you might have already seen some of the machines that I'm about to show you, but most of these were made back when I only had a few hundred subscribers, so I figured that I would revisit these for everyone who started watching my channel since then. In this video, I'll be showing you a ferocious walking machine, a mining machine that can help you get all the ancient debris that you'll ever need, a sailing ship, and a couple of flying machines as well. I'll link all of the schematics in the description, and I'll make everything available as a world download on my Patreon. Alright, so before we have a look at the vehicles that I've built, I want to cover two principles that I use to move the vehicles. So the first way to move the vehicles is with pistons, and that works simply by having one piston extend, and then the piston retracts, and then we use a sticky piston to go ahead and grab the first piston and pull it back. And in this way, we can achieve motion. So there's one important thing to keep in mind. It's that contraptions can never move themselves. They can only move other contraptions. So you're always going to need to have at least two separate contraptions. And another way to achieve movement is with mechanical bearings. So mechanical bearing can rotate a contraption. But if I go ahead and place another mechanical bearing, and if I glue it and I rotate this one, well, now we can actually move away from our starting position and not just rotate around a single point. So this is the second way that we can achieve movement in Create Mod. Alright, so the first vehicle that we're going to look at is the drill. So this is my mega drill, and this is one that I use in my survival world because I absolutely hate mining for ancient debris. So I made this specifically to get all the ancient debris that I would ever need. So this is one with practical applications. So let's see how well it mines ancient debris. If I just place some down, and also put down some gold and quartz, and also some netherrack for a good measure. So let's hop in and see what it looks like. So this is one of the vehicles that uses pistons for propulsion. So we've got the pusher and the puller right here. And we've also got this setup here that allows us to turn. So these are all powered by windmills. I think all of my vehicles are. Most of them have a rotation speed controller. When you build this from a schematic, just be sure to always activate the windmill, otherwise it's not going to work. So we've got a driver's seat right here, and we can control it with this controller. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go outside, and I'm going to use this second controller I have right here, so that we can actually get a better view of it in action. So what can this thing do? Well, it can turn, and it can move forward if I press W. But let's say you're using it and you just want to set it and forget it. Well, you can press S or backwards, and that's going to toggle the continuous mode. So now when I press W, it's going to go forward and it won't stop until I press S again. So now we're just going to watch it mine. And of course, the ancient debris takes a little longer to mine than the other ores, but it's almost done. And we'll see it continue forward and mine all of the other ores. So one of the challenges when building this was that I couldn't just use a time-based system because every ore takes a different amount of time to mine. So if I just said, okay, advance for X amount of seconds and then retract the piston and then activate the sticky piston, it wouldn't have worked. So I had to actually use, what did I have to use? I had to use some redstone sensors. What are they called? So we're almost done. Now we just have some quick ores to mine. So once these are done, I'm just going to press S right here, and it's going to stop advancing. Alright, I'm going to press S, and now it's going to stop. So one cool thing about this is that it just spits out all the netherrack. Because when you're in the nether and you're mining, you don't really want the netherrack, or at least I didn't. So I have this vault right here, and I just put a filter with some netherrack in it, so you don't have to worry about filling up on netherrack, because honestly, who likes netherrack? So I also put some hoppers here, so all the good stuff will go directly into these hoppers thanks to the smart chutes. And I also have a filter here, so anything else that you want to gather, you can put in there too. So another thing about contraptions is they don't stop liquids when they're in motion. So if you're in the nether and you're going through lava, you're going to have a bad time. So what I've done with this design is that there's two separate roofs when it's moving forward. So if I go inside and we move forward, well, we're going to see that there's no lava falling through. So thank goodness for that. And also when we rotate, there's no lava that falls in either. So that's it for the drill. If you're interested in using this in your survival world, I have a video where I do just that, and I show how to bring it into your world and how to transport it using cart contraptions. So that's definitely something you'll want to check out if you want to use this in your survival world to mine ancient debris. Alright, so up next we have the walking machine. So this one is my favorite in terms of how cool it is. In terms of practicality, I wouldn't say it's the most practical. I've never brought this into a survival world, but I think it looks cool. And just the fact that it walks is pretty neat. And I'm pretty sure that I came up with this way of walking. I don't know if anyone else came up with it, but basically there's two bearings here that are face to face. There's this central area, and each leg here actually moves the whole thing. So it doesn't, you're not lifting up the legs to move, the legs are advancing the whole thing forward. So if we just go here and we look at it, well, we're gonna see what that means. So you see, if I do it again, this leg will stay still and everything else will move, and it's powering this mechanical bearing right here. So you see that's activated and it rotates the whole thing. And the fact that these bearings are face to face means that what they're connected to maintains its orientation at all times. And this part down here is what controls the turning, so I can press right or left on my link controller and it'll turn around. It's not the most realistic turning, but it gets the job done. So I can press right and it'll turn the other way. So this walking machine also has some other things that it can do. So if we look back here, oh, we've got some windmills turning, so I wonder what these power. Well, we'll get some hints. Well, we've got these nozzles spitting out air and we've got these dispensers. So this was actually made before Create Big Cannons came out. So back then we had to make do with what we had. And that was basically TNT cannons, but Create Mod TNT cannons, which means using fans to blow TNT. So one thing that you have to know about Create Mod is that when a contraption moves, anything in a dispenser will be shot out. So how did I get around that? Well, the dispensers are empty, but there's hoppers right here that contain the TNT. So I use a redstone signal to stop the hoppers from sending the TNT into the dispensers. So I've got my controller right here, and when I press spacebar, well, we're gonna shoot TNT out of here. So let's give it a shot. Alright, so that can shoot pretty far, and it's pretty effective. So let's see what that looks like from the inside. So when I built this, I actually didn't know about linked controllers. I didn't know how to use them, so I just had everything be manual. So I have buttons here for turning. Going forward, there's this lever here, so when you activate this lever, it'll go forward, and when you deactivate it, it'll stop. Here we have an analog lever, so this actually controls the range of the TNT cannons. So if I just flick this lever here that activates the cannons, and then I reduce this, well, we're going to see that it's going to shoot closer and closer. So the closest range, well, it's going to start falling closer now. That's basically the shortest range, and over there is the furthest range. So we're going to set it back to a further range because it's always cooler when it can shoot further. And then we're going to see the TNT going more to the distance, going further out into the distance. And I'll just click on this lever and it'll stop shooting. And I also put these Nixie tubes here so you can easily see what range you're set at. So this should change. Yeah, so there you go. So what this looks like driving from the inside as well, you can just hit this lever and you'll just start moving forward. And you can also walk around in it while it's moving. And if I want to turn, I'll just deactivate that and I can hit this button and I'll turn to the right. Same thing with the left button. And I can hit that lever again and we'll be on our merry way. And if you're wondering if this is going to fall in the hole, the answer is no, because this is Create Mod and things aren't affected by gravity. It's just walking by some clever trickery. There's no real physics involved. So it's just going to go over this pit as if it wasn't even there. So that also means it's not going to climb terrain. So it's only useful on flat terrain. Alright, so the next vehicle that I built is this sailing ship. So this uses a similar technique to the one that I used in the walking machine. It's a bit more simplified, and instead of the same movement each time, it kind of goes upwards as if it's rising on the waves, and then downwards as if it's kind of going down into the waves. So it has the motion of a ship sailing on the ocean. So this was one that I made completely for fun. It doesn't have any practical applications. So this doesn't have any link controllers either. There's just this lever here that when it's activated, it'll make the ship sail forward. If I go ahead and deactivate it, it'll stop. So the sailing ship actually has a steering wheel right here, so it's going to rotate from this point. And if I spin it, well, we can turn 90 degrees in any direction. So this is a steerable sailing ship. it can go forward and it can turn. So if we have a look at the machinery while it's in action, it kind of looks like it's just going back and forth forever. But because of the way the contraptions are actually set up, this will propel the ship forward. And I do use the fact that contraptions can move through each other when they're in motion so that I can have something in a confined space that would be technically impossible. So I was able to save space by using this fact that contraptions, they don't collide with each other while they're in motion. So there you have it. That is the sailing ship. So up next, we have this airship engine. So I call it the airship engine because this is something where you can make your own flying machine. And basically you can just build it however you want around this core. So this is all of the functional stuff that you'll need. And I made it in a way that's both compact and useful. So we've got this seat right here with the controller. Of course, if you build your own sort of airship, you're not going to want to sit here. So I'm just going to go ahead and grab this controller and show you what it can do. So it moves forward with the piston system that we saw with the drill. And it can also turn right and left with the same sort of turning mechanism. But for going up and down, well, it uses rotation. So this is a space consideration. If I had to use pistons, it would be twice as tall. So spacebar to go up and shift to go down. So I actually built this when I made kind of a Final Fantasy style airship, but that thing was just so big and laggy that it wasn't really practical. So what I did was I took this engine part and I also made a video on that. So if you're interested in more in-depth how that works, there's a video for that. So I built this basically just to allow people to build their own sorts of flying machines without really having to design their own system. So this is useful, of course, if you want to learn how to build your own, but it's also a pre-built package that lets you just be creative and have fun with what we can do with motion in Create Mod. So there you have it. That is my airship engine, which allows you to build your own flying machine without having to go through the entire design process. And last but not least is the quadcopter. So this is actually a vehicle that I've used in my survival world, and it's probably the most practical of all the vehicles that I've made because it lets you fly around without needing to beat the Ender Dragon and get an Elytra. So this vehicle is powered entirely by rotation, and all these windmills here, well, I was able to make them look like propellers, which really fits the theme and makes the quadcopter one of my favorite vehicles too from the aesthetic standpoint. So it's powered by these windmills. We've got rotation here and this part back here. Well, this is what lets us go up and down. If we go into the cabin right here, there's a few seats so you can bring people along, and you can also attach some chests onto the side. So I'll just grab this and we'll have a look at what it looks like from the outside. So if I press forward, well, it moves forward. So it kind of swings around because it's rotating, but it's an efficient way to move. So if I just, stand up here and we look down, maybe we'll have a better view. If I rotate, well, it's actually only the bottom part that rotates. And then when I press forward again, well, it'll move forward in that direction. And it's all based on rotation, so it doesn't go straight forward or backwards, but it goes by a roundabout route to get there. So we can also press spacebar to go up. So if we look at what this looks like from the inside, well, this is it. And it kind of looks like the top is a propeller spinning. So this was actually based off of a helicopter I made, but when Create 0.5 came out, that design got broken. So before you could just use a fan with some magma underneath, and that was a very compact power source. But they took that away in Create Mod 0.5, and I had to readapt this design to the new reality. So I swapped out those encased fan engines for windmills. So that's it for the quadcopter. I think that this is the most practical vehicle that I've made. After all, it's one of the only two vehicles that I've used in my survival world, the other one being the drill. So if you want to use this quadcopter or any of the other vehicles from this video in your survival world, I highly suggest you build them with a schematic cannon. Even though we have mods like Valkyrian Skies and Clockwork that let us make realistic vehicles, I still think that it's fun and challenging to come up with designs that only use what the base Create mod gives us. If you enjoyed watching this video and you'd like to see more, then please consider subscribing and activating notifications. And I also have a Patreon if you'd like to support me there. Thank you for watching.